How's it going? Everything's going fine? Kicking butts? Okay. Let's go into finally kind of diving into what I meant by humanity's one big ass trump card. The biggest double edged sword that we've had as a species. The biggest unexpected but also planned, in a sense, double-edged sword that we had as a species. You guys can think you're probably right in your suggestions, and you've remembered what I've said in prior videos, but let's just hammer it in. So, television and media are some of the biggest double-edged sword we've ever faced as a collective species. It's as simple as understanding the process of repetition, which I'll repeat for you to remember. Repetition runs your life. Everything that you repeat, you become much more perceptual about it. You perceive more. You're more aware of certain things. You also become better at it. And there's also the point, repetition to a point where it gets into your subconscious. So you don't even think about it. Who thinks about walking? Left foot, right foot, left foot. No one. No one does. Not now. Not anymore. You did when you were young and starting the process until repetition, 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 which also includes the repetition of seeing people do something, okay, or say certain things. That still counts. But you no longer think about left foot, right foot when you're thinking about walking. What about your phone? When you pick it up, do you think about, I have to pick it up a certain way? I have to open it up a certain way. Do you even think about your password anymore, right? You just do the little symbol and that's it. Or just fingerprint for some of you guys. You don't think about it. So you had enough repetition for it to be integrated and you not even to bat an eye about it. Now, simple calculation, 2 plus 2, right? You guys literally just went 4. Yeah. You don't think about it because you've repeated it enough times that it just sank into the subconscious. Now, how does that link back to double-edged sword with media, television, and social media, as well as your cell phone? Oh, that's simple. It's because the process of repetition still goes on. Everything that you will repeat. Oh, okay, wait. You don't perceive you listening to something as a repetition, right? It's that subtle, isn't it? This is one little thing that wasn't necessarily, I guess, theoretically brought to us. Is that even when you listen, just like I told you, when you perceive someone doing something, you're actually repeating it. Okay? So, the same kind of goes with whatever you hear. Now, we've had waves and trends in media, and we saw how that influenced certain people. We also saw how certain people were represented in media. We also saw certain narratives that went with media. And that's where the double-edged sword starts working against you. How so? Well, you're getting given and repeated a certain set of thoughts that are not you. You didn't feel those at the core. It's kind of like understanding that just like a childhood trauma or a belief you had from a while, the first impression that you have on any subject is something that the brain will most likely take by default. Because as a mass, we have not necessarily been taught to look at the person's context. Again, there's a momentum to all of this. You look at any news interview, any news report. Oh, this has happened, and it's clearly this person's fault, or this is clearly this is clearly what happened, even though the reporter wasn't fucking there. It's became a habit, judgment on stereotypes. I mean, I see a lot of people, not necessarily only homeless people, but just people in general, in the street, or just talking, not liking cops because they have a very strict compartmentalized perception of cops. Now, here's where you got to get back into reality. You're being shown in movies, dumb cops, never call the army because they're dumb as well. In your video games, oh, you gotta watch out, or else they're gonna come after you. So don't get yourself that first star or even up to 5 stars, right? You are continuously brought and repeated a negative perception of police officers or a dumb perception of police officers. But see, here's the thing, what your shows don't necessarily show you is what's happening in the background, including filing reports, investigative works, having a fucking family, not just being a stereotype, right? So oftentimes a lot of people just kind of forget that, and you know what, it ain't their fault, because double-edged sword McGee media television, repetition, 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 it becomes the first thing that the brain assumes. Happened with my a family member, a relative that had this incident where he was trying to back his car into his home, and there was some kid that just didn't necessarily know to move away, and he just kind of told that kid move away. The kid just bolted, and it's like, huh, weird. And as he went back home, gets a knock on the door, and it's the police officer, and his mind was just racing with all the possibilities and all the negative possibilities. And it was just, the kid had a misperception. Again, it's one misperception affecting another misperception. You see how the mind kind of works? First thing in that kid's mind was, oh my god, I'm gonna get drowned in this hard shit, this is a van. And then, first thing in my relative's thing is like, oh my god, the cops are here. Shit's gonna go down. Fuck, this could affect my career. This could affect everything. Anything could go down. Again, repetition. Being played like a bitch. All of us. In the aspect. And I am fully taking part of that as well. Because something that happened as recent as yesterday just blew my mind and had myself cry out of compassion. It was the aspect that I met a person, blue hair, tall, and there was a flash in my mind about some of the crap that I was hearing back when, the whole Gamergate, SJW type of stuff happened back at that time, how media was kind of pitting us against each other. So there was a subtle flash. But then, again, being in the state that I am and understanding the stuff that I am, I perceived that flash and then completely dismissed it and just respected the person as a person. And we had an amazing conversation. I want to thank that person for that moment. Later on that night, again, inner revision. Or inner conversation leading to revision, I kind of went, what the fuck was up with that flash? And it was, again, some of the biased media that I was ingesting at that time, because they sneakily got us to give a fuck about politics as they involve gaming into politics. So in that moment, back at that time, there was a very big stigma against people with different hair color because they were associated with a demographic. And the media was just, oh man, it was like soup. They were just feeding us this division soup, full of shit. But it was first impression, because I hadn't met more people in that vein, in that kind of perspective, or in that kind of group, before the media kind of exposed that. So unfortunately, that was the first impression that I had. And the reason why I cried when I realized that was like, fuck, they played the game on you guys, they played the game on us, they played the game on boomers. Oh yeah, because now it's like okay to go, okay boomer, and to disrespect people just so casually. So I'm like, wow, scumbags. It's so easy to put division like that, And now you have the reverse racism acting out, and it's like, okay, well, implementing this idea that, a specific skin color needs to feel bad for whatever happened 100 years ago. Oh God, we should all feel, if this was rational logic, we should all feel bad for what happened to Moses prior. So everyone who's Egyptian, fuck you. No. Makes no sense. You can't trail it all the way back. But again, media, first impression, repetition, repetition, repetition. And I'm like, wow, okay, fuck. And it got me aware about the types of programming that happened in my, generation bracket as well. So it was kind of fucked up and cool to realize. And there was massive compassion at the same time for how they've been affected as well. So it was kind of nutty. I want to try to bring out another example of the media repetition. The simple and obvious. Hey, you guys remember back in the 80s, there was always the Russian bad guy or the German bad guy, right? And then we went through a transition. After 9/11, always the negative, the bad Arab, the evil Arab, Repetition, 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 right? And now, they took a poll, they fucking know that 9/11 was an inside job, and people had time to switch out and get out of their programmed racism against Arabs. It took a while, but not as long as what happened with the Cold War, but still, repetition, repetition, repetition. Now, let's go to another layer, the way that you talk to yourself. Now, I'm a big fan of the hero's story as everyone else. Every movie, every drama, you give me some nice comeback stories, the underdog, all that good shit. I'm a big fan of that. What I'm not a fan of is the fucking punk bitch dialogue of, oh shit, I'm not enough. Oh shit, I can't do this. Oh shit, I gotta struggle. Oh shit, this is hard. Why am I not a fan of that? Well, one, because of the repetition, it sticks to your subconscious. Again, it does not need you to be actively aware of it. It is simply repetition of a kind of sentence structure with its definition and nuance and by reciprocity, the feelings that you get and perpetuate on a constant base because of that dialogue. That's what I got a fucking problem with. As well as the fact that most main characters are basic bred main character mentality. Basic bitch, too. But yeah, that becomes a big ass problem because then you're stuck with that kind of dialogue in your mind. The comparison aspect, the diminishment, the division kind of dialogue. You're stuck with that. Repetition makes for a good story, sells a lot, right? But it makes for a terrible inner conversation. Sucky. It is crap. You get, like, if you keep that kind of mindset, it'll make you miserable. And then here's another factor why I call this the biggest double-edged sword, is that now neurology is getting in the boat of understanding what spirituality and metaphysics was talking about. Your cells are affected by your inner dialogue. If you're always judging and constantly nitpicking others and yourself, you will develop a form of arteritis. If you hate yourself and hate people to the core, you will develop cancer. No fucking kidding. Fucking look it up. And now, we're going to add another part to that, okay? Because there's another little part that is kind of just going to get you up to date with the fabrics of reality, because not only does that affect neurology, but that inner talk affects whatever you're bringing back in your own life. We gotta be careful. Television shows us a basic bitch version of reality, which is not the current fabric of reality. We ain't dealing with Darwinian and Newtonian. We've always been dealing with quantum physics. It's just that ain't no fucking way to know what's going on in a person's mind unless you ask. And even then, certain people are not necessarily trained to go in deep and be aware of their mind, what they say, their mental process, and how it was generated. Ain't gonna teach that in school, and television's just being basic. So that aspect of things, especially the fact that this is influencing your life, cannot be fucked with. This is all entirely logical. Play with this. Set up a list. Watch what your inner dialogue is and what it brings back to you, how it feels in your body. And you're going to notice it. It's just about taking time, where again, there's a big ass other notch for that double-edged sword. After a while, let's say if you were born with television, early millennials, so booyah. eventually your mind gets used to this kind of flow, used to kind of getting that fix from your shows, from your movies, from your even video games. The same dialogue. It's got to sell, right? It's got to be like the movies. But yeah, your mind just doesn't really pay that much attention after a while, you know. And again, we weren't necessarily taught that. Those of you who kind of went into the journey, awesome. Please be patient with and be cautious of that for everyone else, because we didn't fucking know that these inventions were gonna bring that shit. We didn't, ain't no idea, no way to perceive it at that point, and we just got up to date with our neurology and quantum physics. So again, want to go back to the old book, as you believe it, so it is not unto you. Don't punk out on that one. Do not punk out, because this literally is confirmed by quantum physics. So science got your back now as well. Again, it's never been about division. There's people with interest in keeping the two, you know, sciences and theories separate. Is because once you're able to kind of connect the dots and have some experiences in your life, you are able to start to see how it all functions. But the mind can easily get lazy in that aspect because of ingesting too much of that content. And then, two, if you're being showed a basic bitch version of reality continuously, then you're going to think all this shit is fiction, which is not. Again, we're at this point where truth is stranger than fiction. And it's kind of fucking awesome at the same time. We just kind of want to get into this balancing job, which leads me to, again, this final point. This is not about canceling. This will never work, because you're infringing upon another person's right of being a creator, of being creative. And then you're having this lack of compassion to not understand that they're following trends because they were taught this is what sells, this is what's going to get your job, this is what's going to lead you to your passion. They were taught that. So you can't start the whole cancel and blame game. It doesn't work. Because naturally we'd have to blame the people who allowed those inventions to get into our hand. And that doesn't make sense, because that's demanding for them to have known or have had the stats to understand all this at that time when it just got out. That's logical impossibility. All right? It makes no sense. So you want to stick in that aspect of practical logic while also having the compassion, the emotional compassion, to understand, not to blame. This was not perceived before, even though, and what was quite interesting, the creator of the television, as I said, just told his family, yo, don't get the trash that they're placing in your mental diet. He fucking knew. Alright? But there were people with interest that did not give a fuck about our collective mindset. They did not give a fuck about our collective mental state. They just wanted the money. And we're at this point where we're realizing, yo, those people gotta go. The financial aspect does not take over the species. It doesn't make logical sense, and those people are just insane. Literally. Insanity. Complete insanity. I don't care which political leader, I don't care which pharmaceutical owner, I don't care which television owner. Insanity. If you're putting the dollar created by this species over the species, you are insane. And also haven't realized the logical cooperation purpose of this species. It's quite simple. I'll try to make a video talking about that a bit later on. Or maybe I spoke enough about that, but it's illogical at this point, you know, to have this division and purposely made division. So what we didn't see is also that affecting cell phones and mobile. Again, repetition of a certain kind of dialogue, the echo chambers online, the censored dialogue. So if it ain't canceling, what is it? One, get more mindful about what's going through your mind. Where did you pick it up? How often has it been repeated? And then if you're able, or as you're able, because you definitely are able, it just takes a certain amount of time and practice, but as you're able to see the ball of repetition that you've created, the mountain, the momentum, you just need to flip it for the opposite. This is why I call it a double-edged sword. Yes, there's the negative aspect of the programming, but at the same time, if you're able to consciously gauge that and also use some of these ingredients for further creation, you're able to flip it. But first, you got to flip that mental dialogue, or it won't even allow you to start dreaming your own dreams. Another example about that, because repetition's a pain for certain people. Okay, yeah, let's just crack that dialogue about ADHD. Some people are being told, or bipolarism. Some people are told, it's your chemical. So at that point, they won't even start to look at the inner dialogue. They won't even start to look at the assumptions of their perception. Again, perceptual lenses create an assumption of a situation, which then creates the emotion. So oftentimes they're not even told about that. They're not even told about thought forms, because some people are able to feel thought forms around. You got to get up to date with this, because it's welcome to quantum physics, surface level. Your thoughts count, and the thought of everyone else around you in your area counts. All right? But they're just being chalked up. Okay, well, it's only chemicals. Take some pills and you will never be able to get rid of it. It is done for life. And then guess what? Because they've gotten that idea, they will repeat it. Quantum physics is like, okay, well, that's your life. So, woo, let's continue. They'll never really investigate what got them to these kind of thought forms, or reactions, and then they're stuck on a perpetual loop. That's the industry for you, right? Because makes money. Thank you for buying my drugs. Makes money, right? Fucked up. But some people, and again, it's not the blame. It is simply a result of a perpetual habit of staying to one perceptual box, one career, one idea of how things work, and just being like, that's it, that's all, it's done. We've seen people like that. Again, we've had religious folks in the past acting like that, even some now too. So it's not an aspect of blaming those well-intending pharmaceutical people, even though some of them have the financial interest. But it's an aspect of being much more in tune with your mind and understanding what regulates your thought, where you pick that shit from. And you're going to have to wrestle that dopamine, because the mind might simply just want to sit down and binge watch a whole series instead of doing that inner work. But while you're binge watching that whole series, you're intaking a whole bowl of soup of shit programming. Sorry, the hero's story is shit programming. Yes, you're going to get... Let's balance this out, okay? It is shit programming in the aspect that if you keep repeating it, then you keep repeating that roller coaster, get that high point only at the end of the story, then keep repeating that roller coaster, okay? You can pick up ingredients from that story, but can you understand logically that binge watching a whole season of a show to get you the hero story happening every episode is going to give you 80% of the time of that show's time is the negative struggle kind of mindset. You gotta acknowledge it, okay? It's logical. This is how it is framed. It is what sells. It is the popular narrative. But you also have to understand that you're taking that 80% of dishwater in your mind for the 20% that's gonna fizzle away because you gotta get back into the dishwasher. The dishwater. I really want to say it's dirty water for the next episode. So you got to take this into consideration and look at it logically, but then also feel it emotionally. Because with that repetition of dishwater, you are also programmed to repeat emotional reaction. Right when the music's about to get to this point. Oh God, this person fell down. Look at the music, what it means to that. Clearly judge that utter. You know? It all plays on you. So easy, right? In a sense, you can see how we got the cocoa, right? Man, it's like watching a game of Clue. You know the murder weapon, you know who's the suspect, but you gotta watch everyone else as if it was a battle royale game of Clue get up to the point. And it's one of the multiple theories and understanding about what's happening. Neurolinguistic programming, but that's the one I kind of understand as just solid. It's so fucked up when you realize how much repetition owns your ass. Mix both neurology and quantum physics to it, ancient texts, whatever you want to take, make a trifecta, and you're able to kind of perceive it as clear as daylight. The only thing that's kind of holding certain people is this aspect of, again, the prior brainwashing. You stick to one side or you stick to another, instead of understanding, hey, what makes everyone's life a bit great? What multiple types of science? Because, again, you gotta watch out. We've had some times where science was like, I don't like your theory, so I'm gonna counter it, or I'm gonna block it. Still active most of the time, and I am glad for those new age scientists. Thank you, Dr. Joe Dispenza, even Tony Robbins, all that group to go, well, fuck the peer groups if they're not gonna think of people's wellness instead of their egos. Fuck them. Literally, fuck that peer review. Fuck that, oh, you're not a popular author, so we will not let that pass. Fuck it. It's about helping people, and it's about not necessarily sticking to a one perceptual box mindset. It's understanding, again, you're able to connect the dots. You have much more value, and you have much more proactivity. You have much more resolve than you were led to think. But if you keep listening to that hero's journey, and you keep listening to that kind of mindset, struggle, struggle, struggle. So, keep that in consideration, and understand that you being programmed like a bitch if you're just gonna let that fly. It ain't your fault, and it ain't the media's fault in the sense. Again, we're not here to play the blame game, because you didn't fucking know. So you can't be blamed for that. And the same kind of goes for the people who allowed this to happen. Except those who were pulling the chain. They've got their date in Guantanamo coming up soon anyway. So, take the time. Actively probe your mind without judging yourself. Where did you pick up those phrases, those sentences, those perceptual boxes of what life is? Ask yourself those questions without judging, because again, you weren't born with any kind of concepts of judgment and criticism. So fuck it. Do it. And basically start to unravel it. It's like pulling at a yarn ball. You're just discovering more and more and more. And it becomes more and more obvious. And hey, after a while, you become so adept to it that sometimes you'll just skip out on the whole binge watching. Or you'll just take one episode, kind of go, I see that dialogue sells, but man, kind of cringe to see all that division and just gratuitous assumption and neediness from characters. So, I'll just go do something else, you know? Same kind of goes with video games. It ain't their fault. Again, ain't no need for cancel culture. That's just perpetuating an old pattern. It doesn't work. It's just being more cautious and aware of yourself, and then helping others, but not forcing others. Again, balance. That's the key right now. Balancing yourself, and then helping other people to balance themselves while being balanced. So, if some people don't necessarily feel they're ready, that's fine. Step away. Do not spend more time. It is okay. Some people will have to follow that journey. Some people will just kind of clue into it a tad bit later on, or never will. It happens. Sometimes we kind of have to accept it, you know? And just be in your balanced state. Have fun. Don't criticize them or judge them for it, because now you understand the power of repetition. And then doubled up with fucking media. And yeah, as you keep asking yourself questions, even if you feel the need to go to your mobile game or do a Facebook post or watch a Facebook post or scroll through feed, just ask yourself, what am I getting from this? What kind of dialogue am I getting from this? What am I learning? How do I feel about this? You know, you just keep being inquisitive. And watch out. If there's any judgment, where'd I get that? Is this a show that told me to hate myself if I think about this way? Or even if I find any kind of imbalance in me? You know? Or is it like church used to do? Oh my God, how dare you be imbalanced? You must repent! Even though I might have taught you that imbalance by talking to you a certain way. All about balance. So, have fun. Kill the blame game. And just allow yourself to balance things out. Have fun with your own creations. You'll see. Kick some asses.